Hey guys, welcome back to the second part of this clip view video. I got the first one up and I got it going. My camera died. I thought it was the SD card filling up, but nope. So, we're gonna pick up where we left off, which is good, because we're halfway through it. We're on... So, I'll repeat a couple lines from the last video and we'll continue on. We'll do that. Wet my whistle. Alright. The enemy in the dark never disappears. It never softens. It never relents. And I do not want it to. It tests me daily, reminding me of the limits I've overcome, the fears I've conquered, and the strength I've built. It challenges me to sharpen my mind, fortify my resolve, and refine my vision. I meet these challenges not with resistance, but with adaptation. Every encounter is a lesson. Every whisper is a guide. Every shadow is a mirror of what I can become. Growth is no longer optional. Strength is no longer accidental. Mastery is no longer a dream. It is a lifestyle. And in that lifestyle, I find freedom. Freedom to rise. Freedom to act. Freedom to shape my world and my destination with intention, clarity, and power. The enemy remains, but it is no longer that threat. It is the constant that drives my evolution. And in that perpetual evolution, I am unstoppable. Mastery is no longer confined to moments of struggle. It flows through every day, every decision, every interaction. The enemy will whisper. The darkness still tests, and I still listen, carefully, intentionally. But now I live in alignment with the strength I have forged. I move deliberately, not reactively. I create, not chase. I influence, not follow. Boundaries are no longer negotiable. Choices are no longer accidental. Energy is no longer wasted on what does not serve my purpose. That's right. My boundaries, my choices, and my energy. And it's not negotiable. Those are all mine. That's part of my peace. My wa. My ikigai. My korodama. Because it lives in those. The internal war continues, but it is no longer the center of my life. It is the engine, the guide, the mirror. It sharpens me without controlling me, and life responds. Opportunities align, relationships clarify, challenges become tests I've met with awareness. Courage and strategy. Mastery is no longer a concept. It is a way of being, a lens through which I move, act, and create. That's what I'm doing here. And in living it, I am unstoppable. Mastery is not just personal. It radiates outward. The battles I fought, the darkness I faced, the enemy I confronted, they become more than survival. They become lessons, blueprints, maps for anyone willing to rise, willing to fight, willing to become. I'll get to what I do with these blueprints in a minute. I do not teach weakness. I do not glorify suffering. I show the path of clarity, courage, and relentless self-mastery. Every word I speak carries weight. Every action I take sets precedent. Every choice I make leaves a mark. I do not save people from their battles. I do not fight their wars for them. I illuminate the way, strengthen the resolve, and demonstrate the power of mastering oneself. I become the example. Legacy is no longer a concept whispered in dreams. It is in motion. It moves with the steps I take, the actions I execute, the lives I touch. And in that, my mastery becomes immortal, not because the enemy disappears, not because the enemy comes back. Oh, and trust me, kid, they always come back. But because I have learned to wield it to create growth, power, and impact. Mastery is not static. It is a blade that must be sharpened. Every day, every choice, every challenge hones its edge. The enemy in the dark still whispers. It still tests. It still pushes boundaries. And I welcome it. Each attack, each doubt, each shadow becomes a means to refine myself. I cut through illusion. I sharpen awareness. I strengthen resolve. There is no finish line. No final drink. There is no finish line, no final victory, no moment where I can declare myself complete. Perfection is a myth, guys, okay? Or, like I said in my last videos I put out. We find beauty in broken things. Trying to figure out where I want to go from here. I guess we'll just continue. I was going to skip a few, but that's fine. Like I said, we need to put it out there. And that is the power of the endless edge, okay? Ensures I never become complacent. Ensures I never stop evolving. Because it's scary when you're evolving. You think you're there and then, no. Gotta evolve again and again and again. Eventually you get tired, exhausted, and start questioning. But you can't. You gotta trust the process. You gotta take the steps. You gotta put in the work. You gotta change that mindset. Because if you can change what the mind thinks, you can change what the body does. Ensures that even in darkness, I remain a force, a presence, a warrior. The enemy remains, but I am always sharper, always stronger, always awake. I am defined not by what I have endured, nor by the battles I have faced, nor the darkness that once threatened to consume me. Because it's always trying to consume me. Darn darkness, go away. I am defined by how I respond, by how I sharpen myself with every challenge, by how I forge clarity from chaos, courage from fear, and power from doubt. My identity is not fixed. It is a living edge, honed daily. It is shaped by vigilance, refinement, and intention. And see the world clearly without illusion. I understand people without attachment to expectations. I navigate life without surrender to external chaos. The enemy is in the dark, still whispering what it will always whisper. Because that's all it will ever do now. Because it can't talk louder than me, because I am louder than it. So it must whisper. And it still seeks to trip me. Don't get it wrong. It still wants to destroy me. But I wrestle with it. I face it head on. I look it in its eyes. I say, bring it. Or there's days I look it in its eyes and I say, what is it you want to try to tell me today? Because you know what you want to say. We both know it's true. So what lesson you want to teach me? Because I'm tired of trying to teach others. They hate me for it. And you want to know why? Because in those moments I am unshakable. Not because life is free of struggle, guys, but because I have become the version of myself that I can turn struggle into strength, darkness into sight, and opposition into advantage. I am the identity of the sharp, ever evolving, ever aware, ever mastered. Mastery is not just about surviving the darkness. There's always more to about the darkness. It is everything. It is about using that strength to shape something greater. Every battle I faced, every whisper I endured, every shadow I confronted, it all points toward purpose. Not a purpose handed down, not a path dictated by others. A purpose I carve, deliberate, relentless. The enemy in the dark still speaks. It still tests my resolve. It still changes and challenges my clarity. But now I use it. Every doubt becomes a decision. Every fear becomes a catalyst. Every shadow becomes a guide spot. I act not for validation, not for recognition, not for fleeting applause. I act to build. I act to lead. I act to leave an imprint forged in truth, resilience, and mastery. The world may never fully understand the depth of what it takes to rise from the dark and claim oneself. But that does not matter. Purpose is not about being seen. It is about being unwavering. And in living with mastery, in walking with clarity, in acting with intention, I have discovered the ultimate truth. Truth is born in struggle. Identity is forged in vigilance. Purpose is carved from mastery. The darkness never leaves. The enemy never rests. The war inside, that never ends. And yet I am no longer afraid. I am no longer lost. I am no longer reactive. Because I have learned to move in harmony with it, to listen, to respond, to transform every challenge into clarity, every doubt into strategy, every shadow into strength. Mastery is no longer survival, it is action, it is purpose, it is influence. Every choice I make aligns with my vision, and every step I take carries intention. Every interaction reflects my clarity, my power, my vigilance. The enemy in the dark is no longer a threat. It is a teacher, a guide, a constant sharpening tool. The darkness is no longer a prison. It is a forge, a springboard. Most important, it will always be a mirror. I am defined by how I move through the shadows, how I act in the light, and how I leave the world changed because I have walked through it, aware and awake and unshakable. Harmony is not peace. Harmony is not control. Harmony is clarity. And harmony is power. And in that harmony, I am complete. Not because the darkness is gone, but because I have learned to wield it. I am the master of myself, the architect of my life, the force within and beyond. And that is freedom. Mastery is not a finish line. It is the edge from which you leap into every unknown. The enemy in the dark still lurks. The whispers still come. The shadows still threaten. And yet, I'm unshakable. Not because I have eliminated fear, but because I have learned to see it clearly, anticipate it, and use it to propel myself forward. Beyond the edge, life is no longer dictated by circumstances. It is shaped by intention. Every move calculated, every choice deliberate. Every lesson from darkness becomes leverage. The shadows no longer intimidate, they teach. The enemy no longer opposes, it instructs. Every struggle, every whisper, every trial becomes a tool to expand influence, sharpen vision, and leave a mark that endures. Beyond the edge, mastery is not just internal, it radiates outward. It touches those who seek guidance. It commands respect from those who underestimate it. Quiet. Stomach's still growling. That's what happens when you fast. It creates ripples that transform not just the self, but the world it moves through. And the ultimate truth becomes clear. The stronger you are in the dark, the brighter your influence shines in the light. Beyond the edge, I am unstoppable. Mastery is not random. It is structured. It is a system, or a framework forged in darkness, tampered and struggled. Tampered and struggle, yeah. Refined in awareness. Yeah, definitely. Every habit, every thought, every action is deliberate. Every decision is measured against purpose, clarity, and long-term vision. Every challenge is a test. Every setback is a lesson. And every whisper is a guide, if you're willing to listen. The enemy in the dark still speaks. The shadows still shift. Fear still lurks. And yet I am ready. Because I have built a system, a blueprint for resilience. A method for mastery. Ensures growth never stagnates. It ensures vigilance never falters. It ensures that every step I take strengthens, sharpens, and extends my power. The system is not a crutch. It is my weapon. It is my guide. It is my map to navigate both darkness and light. Through it, mastery becomes sustainable, influence becomes intentional, purpose becomes inevitable. And in living by that system, I am unstoppable, not by chance, but by design. Here's where people forget. Life does not wait. Time does not stop for people. Chaos does not pause. The world will test, guys. The enemy will whisper. Trust me, they do. The shadows will move. Because it's always dancing with the light. But now, I anticipate. I prepare. I respond with precision. Every challenge is mapped before it strikes. Every threat is measured before it manifests. Every decision is aligned with the system I built, the mastery I learned, the clarity I honed. The whispers of doubt are no longer distractions. They are signals. Mastery is not contained. It radiates. It moves outward, touching everything it encounters. The system I built, the battles I faced, the shadows I embraced, they no longer serve only me. They shape the people, the opportunities, the world I interact with. Every action carries weight, guys. Every choice creates effect. Every decision sends ripples that others feel. Even if they do not see me, the enemy in the dark still whispers. The shadows still shift. And chaos still exists. And yet an influence flows effortlessly. Because power born of clarity cannot be ignored. Strength forged in darkness commands respect. Purpose rooted in mastery guides others without need for recognition. I no longer need to chase. I no longer need to explain. I no longer need to force outcomes. The ripple is inevitable. The impact is organic. The legacy begins in silence and grows in force. Mastery is not selfish, it is generative. It transforms not just the self, but everything it touches. And in that, I am not just alive, I am a force. True mastery is not a bust or a burst. It is a continuum, a life lived deliberately, with vigilance and care, ensuring strength endures. The enemy in the dark will try to get loud from time to time. The shadows will still try to consume you. Chaos will always come. And yet I remain steady, because I have built a sustainable and unreckoning into my power. I replenish myself by meditating, clear my head, by having those conversations with myself in the mirror. Stay tuned. That's going to be my next video right there. your mental health. That's also another video that'll be coming out. I sharpen without burning out. I move with intention, not reaction. Every action is measured, every choice is deliberate, and every relationship, every project, every endeavor aligns it aligns with purpose, guys. I no longer chase fleeting energy. I cultivate lasting influence. I protect my time, my focus, my clarity. Sustainable power is not loud, guys. It is quiet, relentless, and invisible to those unprepared to notice. Mastery, influence, and purpose, they are no longer separate. They are integrated, flowing harmony. And in that harmony, my power is eternal. When I feel like giving up, when I feel down, when I feel like I got handed a losing hand, like, life just stepped on me. Yeah. But you gotta remember, that's part of that flowing in the harmony. And like I said, in that harmony, my power is eternal. That's where I grab my power when I don't feel like I got power, when I'm energy, when I feel like I am just, burnt out, ready to collapse. Meditate, find that harmony. And when I find that harmony, when I find my peace again, when I was shifted and able to continue forward, it's where my harmony is no longer blocked. It is flowing as it always has. All the thing is I took a different trail than it, and I got lost. But when I took that different trail, I brought back lessons I learned, stories to tell, memories that will either lock away or forget. Then me and harmony meet back up and those two trails merge back into one. That's when I am at the height of my life. Life does not announce its storms. Chaos strikes without warning. The enemy in the dark never rests, and yet I am ready, because I have learned to move with the unseen, to anticipate without certainty, to act without hesitation. Every challenge is an opportunity, every threat is a test, every shadow is a map of what must be conquered. I no longer flinch. I no longer react blindly. I no longer let fear dictate my steps. The unseen storm is not an obstacle. It's a proving ground, a place to measure strength, refine skill, and assert mastery. It reveals the cracks only to be fortified, whispers only to be answered with strategy, chaos only to be transformed into leverage. Through the storm I move with precision. Through the storm I act without clarity. And sometimes through that storm I act with clarity. But most of all, through that storm, I emerged stronger, sharper, and more unshakable. Because I am constantly being aware of the lessons that life's trying to teach me. I learn from them by studying it, by dissecting it, by meditating on it. And apply it to my life. So I never stop writing. Because mastery is not a destination. It is the ability to stand unshaken in the face of the unseen. And yet I construct systems that withstand uncertainty. I create frameworks that amplify strength. I design processes that turn lessons into leverage, pain into power, and mastery into influence. Every structure I build reflects clarity. Every system I implement ensures sustainability. Every framework I leave behind becomes a blueprint for growth. There's that blueprint I was talking about. Resilience and purpose. Legacy is no longer accidental. It is deliberate. It is intentional. It is designed to endure beyond the storms, beyond the chaos, beyond the whispers of the enemy. I do not merely survive. I do not merely influence. I build. I construct. I leave behind structures that carry power, clarity, and mastery forward. The enemy may linger. The shadows may shift. But the system endures. And through them, my mastery becomes immortal. Mastery does not exist in isolation. It flows outward, connecting with every element it touches. The system I have built do more than endure. They influence. They shape behavior. They inspire action and command respect. They create an ecosystem where clarity, strength, and purpose propagate naturally. The enemy in the dark still whispers, chaos still tests. The unexpected still arises. And yet this ecosystem thrives because every structure, every framework, every principle is aligned with the law of mastery. Observe, adapt, anticipate, execute. And then you repeat and repeat. That is your guys' blueprint. That is like the cheat code in life. You observe it, you adapt to it, you anticipate it next time, and then you execute. There you go. Simple. See, people think I am alone because I don't have many friends, don't go out and be able to blend in. Like I said, the puzzle piece that does not seem to fit. But you see, I'm not alone. Never have, never been. Because that darkness is still there. The enemy is still whispering in every corner of my mind. Because I gotta keep building, keep growing, observing it, and observing the mistakes, adapting to them, anticipate how I'm going to execute it next time, and then when that comes, and I will be anticipating it, it's going to come. It always does. Then I execute. People respond to this energy, though, guys, whether consciously or not, because people are always so quick to judge. People like to believe the first thought that pops in their head. Either way, will always respond to dark energy or even, the light. If they're conscious about it or not. Opportunities align themselves with precision. Challenges must be met with strategy, not panic. Growth becomes inevitable. The ecosystem is alive, responsive, and self-sustaining. Mastery has moved beyond self. It now orchestrates the environment. It turns influence into action, lessons into legacy, and power into enduring impact. Like I said, I am not alone. I'm at the center of the system, built to survive, thrive, endure. And through it, mastery transcends the individual, becomes a force that shapes the world. You haven't picked up what I'm doing yet. Slowly painting a picture of what I'm building. Because we are our architects of our lives. We are the engineers, and we are the caretakers of ourselves. And the ecosystem moves. It adapts and strengthens, and so do I. Because true mastery is never complete. It is endless. It is endless cycles of observation, adjustment, and expansion. And in that cycle, power becomes perpetual. Impact becomes infinite. Legacy becomes unstoppable. All the battles fought, all the darkness endured, all the whispers of the enemy heard and answered. And I talked about my thoughts on legacy. Like I said, I don't understand why everybody wants to leave a legacy in the world. You're wasting your energy. You need to be making a legacy out of yourself. Stop looking outward and start looking inward. That is the legacy that I want to build. Not out there, here. Why waste energy out there when you need the energy in here to build, to heal, to strive forward, to not give up, to be resilient, and to grow. And the ecosystem, it moves beyond me, beyond the moment, beyond what others can see or understand. The enemy still whispers, the shadows still shift, the chaos still rises, and yet the vision endures because it is built on foundation, on clarity, on relentless pursuit, and ever-evolving mastery. Every action is aligned, every structure serves purpose, every influence carries weight. Why? Because the world responds not to noise, but to precision. Not to ego, but to presence. Not to fleeting moments. I'll cheers to that one. But to enduring impact. This is not just survival, it is not just influence. This is realization. Mastery has become legacy, clarity has become force, strength has become vision. And the enemy in the dark, it still exists, still tests, still whispers, still dragging my name in the mud. But it is no longer feared. It is acknowledged. It is harnessed and transformed into the energy that drives the vision forward. I do not just move through the world. I shape it. I define it. I leave it irrevocably altered by the presence of mastery, vigilance, and purpose. This is the consequences. The apex of struggle. The shadows that lurk behind cracks. And strength to endure. The vision is realized. Mastery does not end with a single life. It reverberates across time, leaving echoes that shape those who come after. The enemy in the dark still whispers, the shadows still shift. Challenges will always arise, and yet the system I've structured, my peace, they are all lessons of enduring. They become guides for those willing to rise, to struggle, and to master themselves. Every decision I made, every shadow I faced, every battle I fought carries meaning beyond my own experience. It carries meaning beyond my own existence. It teaches vigilance, resilience, and clarity. It shows that strength is forged in darkness and applied with intention. Legacy is not wealth. It is not recognition. It is influence that cannot be erased. It is the framework, the wisdom, the energy passed on to those ready to continue the cycle. Through time, mastery becomes immortal. Through time, influence becomes unstoppable. And through time, purpose transcends the individual. The enemy may still whisper, but the legacy speaks louder. The darkness may shift, but the system endures it. The world may test, but the influence persists. I am not just a force in this moment. I am the force through time, a living echo of mastery, vigilance, and unshakable purpose. The world never stops changing. Challenges rise, chaos evolves. The enemy in the dark never rests, and yet mastery persists, not by resisting time, by adapting with it. Every system I built, every structure I left behind, guys, every lesson forged in shadow, they are alive. They grow, they evolve with each new test. The legacy I create is not frozen in the past. It is fluid. It is anticipation. It is shifts. Influence reaches beyond the moment. Strength endures beyond circumstance. Clarity transcends uncertainty. Those who follow in this path inherit more than guidance. They inherit adaptability, vigilance. I pulled out what they're trying to get me. Vigilance and purpose. They inherit the ability to navigate shadows with strategy, to face whispers with confidence, to turn chaos into opportunities. Mastery, influence, and legacies are timeless. Not because the world stops testing, but because I and what I leave behind never stops evolving. Through time, the vision moves forward. Through time, the power continues. Through time, the mastery endures. Mastery is not isolation, like I said. It is not simply surviving the dark or commanding the unseen. It is how strength, clarity, and purpose meet others. The enemy in the dark still whispers. The shadows still shift and chaos still tests. Why? Because they thought my mastery was my ego. But it is not. It is the version that rose from the dark with strength, clarity, and purpose when it meets others. And yet connection becomes the conduit for influence. A relationship, every interaction, every decision touches another life. And when mastery moves through people, it multiplies. So, for example, anyone heard that smiles are contagious? Yeah, that's what I'm speaking about here. Because literally, we act without thinking most of the times, especially when it comes to our emotions. When it comes to our expressions on our face, like I said, all you gotta do is smile. And about 9% of the time it works. It does make other people smile. You don't have to exchange words or nothing. It's just a simple gesture. And what happens when that gesture is given? Like I said, people will react to it consciously or unconsciously. They will act to it. They'll either shrug it off and keep walking, or they'll return the gesture with a smile. And when mastery moves through people, yes, like I said, it multiplies. But here's the thing. I no longer tolerate shallow alliances. I no longer chase recognition. I no longer bend to expectation. Instead, I engage with intention. I influence with precision. I teach with example. I inspire by presence. The whispers of doubt and fear in others are met not with judgment, but with insight. The shadows that confound them are met with guidance. The chaos that threatens them is met with strategy. Mastery among people is not about control. It is about creating an environment where clarity, strength, and purpose thrive. It is about leaving ripples that extend beyond my reach. It's about making influences with myself and others. Enduring with myself and others. Coming up with an action plan with myself and others. And doing it for myself and others because it's meaningful. Through people, the system endures. Through people, the legacy grows. Through people, mastery becomes immortal. Mastery is not noise. It is not constant action. It is stillness, reflection, and awareness, as much as it is strength and strategy. That's what mastery is. Mastery is stillness, reflection, awareness, strength, and strategy. Those 5 things. No, not 20, not 21, 5. Which is odd, huh? How many fingers are on a hand? Well, if you want to count the thumb there, but yeah, there's 5. I retreat not to hide, even though the enemy thinks I retreat because I'm running away. Because the darkness thinks that that's where I want to go because that's where I came from. The enemy thinks that I retreat because they have won. People that are out in the world that recognize me and see me, I retreat and they don't notice because they never really cared. Because any interaction they had with me because they didn't care was just them trying to get energy from me. But like I said, I didn't retreat not to hide. I retreat to calibrate. I retreat to observe. I retreat to protect my peace. To ensure that when I move, every step is deliberate. Every choice is impactful. Every interaction is meaningful. Solitude is the crucible where mastery solidifies. It is a place where the whispers of the enemy are transformed into fuel. It is the space where the self is sharpened, refined, and prepared for the world. Mastery thrives in balance. It is both shadow and light, reflection and action, solitude and connection. And in this balance, influence becomes unstoppable, legacy becomes unshakable, power becomes sustainable, life never pauses, chaos never stops, the enemy never rests, and neither does mastery. It requires constant recalibration and an ongoing balance between reflection, action, and influence. The shadows still shift, whispers still test, unexpected storms still arise. But I stand firm in that storm. I meet them not with panic, but with measurement, not with a reaction, but with strategy, not with fear, but with precision. And it scares them. When all I was trying to do is resolute with them. All I was trying to do was continue my growth and my journey. To continue building. But those interactions can be lessons to be learned if you're willing to put in the time to dissect it, to understand it, to learn from it, and then you apply it. Because influence multiplies the impact. So if you can influence that lesson to be learned from that, that's the impact. And every challenge becomes a calibration point. Every failure becomes feedback. Like I said, Dissect it. Break it apart into small little pieces. And then try to put it back together like a puzzle, learning how every shape fits to the next. Then, well, you not only understand the small picture, but you will see the big picture. Because failure becomes feedback. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to adjust, evolve, and fortify. Mastery is not static, like I said. It is movement. It is constant adjustment. It is the ability to remain aligned with purpose while navigating the unpredictable. Through recalibration, power becomes sustainable. Through recalibration, influence becomes consistent. Through recalibration, legacy endures. You can't try to go through life without recalibrating. Everything needs recalibrating. That's why I said that's when you need to step back, learn, or even just pause in that moment. And make sure that you know what your ikigai is. If you lose sight of that, then you gotta go back, find it, or to discover a new one, so you can keep thriving through life. But what people forget is that the enemy in the dark is not outside. It never was. It is me. And that enemy in the dark, like I said, it ain't out here. It's inside you. Because it is you. Every fear, every doubt, every whisper I heard, the true battle has always been within. The darkness I feared, the chaos I fought, it was the reflection of my own mastered self. My mastered self taught me to see past the mask, to see past the act, to see past fake, and see people for who they really are. There's a saying, give people enough time and they will show their true colors. That is you studying them. That is you figuring out if they're worth it or not. But you gotta remember, they're not the distraction. They're not the mask. They're not the illusion. I face every lie I have believed, every regret I have carried, every weakness I have hidden. Battle is brutal. The whispers are sharp, relentless. The shadows push, pull, and claw. The voices in your head will whisper to you in every corner of your mind. Yell over here on your left while it's trying to whisper to your front. Sucker punch you till they're behind you while it tries to whisper in your right ear. But yet, I fought, not to destroy myself, but to master myself. Every strike off fear is met with awareness. Every pull of doubt is answered with clarity. Every shadow becomes fuel for illumination. This is not the first battle with self, guys. It is the ultimate one, because it is complete, unrelenting, and absolute. And in this confrontation, I understand the truth. The enemy is real, but so am I. And my mastery is greater than my fear, my shadow, my doubt combined. I do not emerge unscathed. or unscattered. I emerge unshakable, because facing the self fully, with eyes wide open, that will forge strength no darkness can undo. That is the final confrontation, not with the world, not with others, but with the one who has always mastered most, themselves, myself. The battle is over, the whispers have heard, the shadows have been faced. This is where I want to be in life. I want that final battle. That's what this is all working towards. That's just life's cruel joke of trying to distract you by making others think that you're trying to have the battle with them. You're trying to do the mental warfare with them. No, it's the other way around. They're doing the mental warfare. They're the one doing the battling. All you ever did was try to exist. They're testing you. They're trying to break you. They're trying to drain you because you're vulnerable when you're weak. This is why it's important to keep growing, but to never forget the lessons that were taught along the way. Because every lesson from the darkness becomes a part of me. Every scar becomes a guide. Every fear becomes a tool. I am whole, but I'm not perfect. And I couldn't be this close, not without the shadow. But fully aligned with my strength, purpose, and clarity, the enemy in the dark is no longer an adversary. Like I said, it is my teacher, it is my mirror, it is a reminder. Most of all, it is my friend. And above all, it is me. So I look into its eyes, and its eyes are looking back into mine, which still stare back into its. Like a non-endless stare. That is true connection. That is the reminder. Every internal battle fought has reinforced vigilance, sharpened precision, and deepened understanding. I move through the world differently now, though. With awareness, with intention, with calm, and that carries force, that carries silence. Not the silence of nothing. The silence that is louder than nature itself. Influence flows naturally. Legacy builds organically. Decisions are made with clarity, not fear. I am no longer reactive. I am deliberate. I am present. I am unstoppable. Integration is not the end, it is the foundation. A place from which all mastery, influence, and legacy grow. And in this state I am free, not from challenge, not from darkness, but from the illusion that anything outside me can control my power, my purpose. Oh yeah, or my path. The enemy within is no longer a threat, and the shadows no longer intimidate. Every action taken is deliberate. Every word carries weight. Every decision aligns with purpose. It is not hidden. It manifests in influence. It radiates through leadership. Because actions speak louder than words. It builds systems, shapes people, and transforms opportunities. I no longer react. I create, I design, I orchestrate. The enemy in the dark watches, because that's all I can do now. It's all it's been doing for a while. It's just watching, studying, looking for that angle. And still I welcome it. I welcome the lessons. I welcome its insight. I welcome it when it decides it wants to help me and give me power. Because when me and that darkness start working together, the shadows will shift. And we will test any chaos. And yet I have moved forward with calmness, though. Unwavering force, because it is calm. Because mastery is no longer an internal battle. It is an external art. Through action, influence becomes impact. Through action, clarity becomes vision. Through action, purpose becomes a legacy. I am no longer merely surviving. I am shaping. I am leading. I am unstoppable. Mastery in action is not confined to the present. It echoes, it propagates, it influences beyond sight, beyond moment, beyond intention. The system I have built, the structure I have forged, the influence I have cultivated, they ripple outward. And when it does, people feel it, even if they do not know why. Opportunities align themselves naturally. Challenges are met with preparedness, pass through influence. And yet the ripples remain steady, unbroken, unstoppable. Each act of mastery multiplies into networks, communities, and generations. Each choice aligns with purpose, each decision reinforces clarity. Through these ripples, influence becomes legacy. Through these ripples, mastery becomes immortal. Through these ripples, the lessons of darkness, struggle, and victory propagate beyond the individual, shaping the world in profound, lasting ways. I'm no longer just a force in my life, guys. I am the force in the lives of many. A catalyst for growth, resilience, and strength that transcends my own existence. Mastery in action is never solitary. It is a current movement of force that expands through time. And in that expansion, legacy becomes inevitable. The ripples of mastery are alive. They move, they interact, they grow. But growth without vigilance risks distortion. Impact without adaptation risks decay. Legacy without oversight risks of being lost. The enemy in the dark still whispers, the shadows still shift, and that chaos is alive in ways more than I ever could seen it before, because it still tests. And yet I sustain. I monitor that flow of influence, adjusting where necessary. I refine systems to ensure clarity and purpose remain intact. I recalibrate structures to adapt to change. Every ripple is aligned with intent. Every connection is reinforced with wisdom. Every decision fortifies the legacy. Sustaining influence is not passive. It's deliberate. It is consciousness. It is a living practice of mastery applied across time, space, and circumstances. Through vigilance, the ripple maintain their power. Through adaptation, they endure, and through alignment, they expand. Mastery is no longer just survival, action, and creation. It is the stewardship. It is guardianship. It is the careful tending of influence to ensure it thrives long after the moment passes. So, stewardship, guardianship, is where I'm talking about, where I'm not my responsibilities now are not just with me, but being a father. That's the guardianship. That is the careful tending of influence to ensure it thrives long after the moment passes. It's what we have slowly forgot through generation after generation after generation. Go back to the 50s, we didn't have our juveniles in prisons. We didn't. I mean, yeah, life was different back then, but how's it not different now? The things that happened in the 50s have moved through the generations, through time, and have infected this time, have influenced this time. So, what lessons are to be learned there? But I can always remind myself, the world is unpredictable. Chaos arrives without warning. The enemy shifts unseen, testing limits I thought were absolute. And yet I am prepared, not because I can foresee every challenge, but because mastery has taught me to move with the unseen, anticipate without certainty, and act with precision, but only after I have observed the situation. Every threat is met with calmness, because that's important. Don't raise your voice, don't, because that's energy. That's a lot of energy. You should save that energy. There's only a few times in life where yelling is worth it. Giving all your energy. I'll let you ponder on that one. Every obstacle becomes data. Every shadow becomes strategy. And whispers in the dark, the doubts, the fears, the challenge I once thought insurmountable are now tools. They inform, guide, and sharpen. Eternal mastery is not passive. It does not rely on comfort and uncertainty. It adapts to chaos. It turns threat into leverage. I'm just going to pick up the pace. We'll just get through this. Through foresight, action is delivered. Through precision, influence persists. Through vigilance, legacy remains unbroken. The unseen tests, the world shifts, and yet I remain unmoved, unstoppable, unshakable. Confronting the unseen is not survival. It is mastery in motion. It is influence without compromise. It is legacy ensured by strength, clarity, and adaptability. Every challenge leaves a mark. Every test reveals weakness. Every obstacle exposes what must be improved. The enemy in the dark still whispers, guys. It will still be rising. It still will try to rise with you. The unexpected still arrives. because it is there that you walked into. And yet mastery is not static. It thrives on refinement. Each confrontation, each difficulty, each unseen threat becomes a tool for evolution. Mistakes are analyzed, recalibrated, and transformed into strategy. Failures are studied, understood, and converted into lessons. Pain is observed and absorbed afterwards, processed and repurposed into power. This is how mastery endures, not through avoidance, not through luck, not through ease, but through the relentless refinement, through learning from shadows, whispers, and chaos, through transforming challenge into insight, weakness into strength, and threats into opportunity. Each cycle of confrontation sharpens precision, each test strengthens clarity, each trial fortifies resilience. Through refinement, influence becomes unstoppable. Through refinement, legacy becomes unshakable. Through refinement, mastery becomes eternal. Oh. 62 out of 71. All right. The enemy may continue to whisper. The world may continue to shift. And yet I will continue to rise. Stronger, sharper, and more prepared than before. Did you just notice the shift? It wasn't ever the enemy, because the main enemy, like I said, continues to whisper. But it is the world that continue to shift. It's no longer shadows, because the world is a shadow. That's the shift. And yet, I will continue to rise, like I said. Stronger, sharper, and more prepared than before. Mastery is a river, never still, always moving. Influence is the current it carries, shaping everything in its path. Legacy is the delta, spreading far beyond its origin, enduring through time. The enemy in the dark still whispers. The shadows still test. Chaos still arises, and yet growth is internal, as it is eternal. Every challenge, every obstacle, every unforeseen threat becomes fuel for evolution. The lessons learned is cemented in systems, influence, and structure built to last. Eternal growth is not passive. It requires vigilance, adaptation, and continuous refinement. It is deliberate, relentless, and unyielding. Through growth, mastery deepens. Through growth, influence multiplies. Through growth, legacy becomes unstoppable. The system I build are dynamic. The networks I shape are resilient. The lessons I pass on are timeless. Mastery does not end with the self. Influence does not fade with circumstance. Legacy does not diminish with time. It expands, it adapts, and it thrives. Through eternal growth, mastery becomes immortal, unstoppable, and eternal. And in that, the cycle continues, forever refining, forever expanding, and forever powerful. Growth is meaningless without direction. Power without purpose is empty, just like influence without clarity is fleeting. And yet, eternal growth is aligned, guided by vision, measured against purpose, and filtered through clarity. Wisdom becomes the compass, strategy becomes the map, foresight becomes the engine. Mastery is not just strength, it is precision, impact. It is permanent. Through alignment, growth is sustainable. Through alignment, influence is focused. Through alignment, mastery becomes a force both unstoppable and meaningful. I move forward not blindly, but intentionally. I expand, not in chaotic ways, but with calculation. I impact, not superficially, but with enduring force. Because of the internal growth, guided by alignment, ensures that mastery is not just eternal, it is purposeful, clear, and transformative. Because you got to learn, adapt, and overcome. Mastery has become more than survival. Influence has become more than the presence. Legacy has become more than memory. It is now a self-sustaining force. The enemy in the dark still whispers, trying to tell you that you ain't there yet. You're never going to be good enough. Challenging you. Constantly egging you on. And when that don't work, it tries to find those buttons to push. Tries to find a way to break down those walls. Tries to find any exit it can find to tear you down from the inside. And yet the system endures it. It does not falter under the pressure. It does not decay with time. It does not bend to circumstance. Why? Because that structure is fortified. Every system is adaptive. Every ripple of influence is intentional. The power will regenerate itself. Clarity reinforces itself. Purpose perpetuates itself. This isn't mastery as an infrastructure. It is the infrastructure. I am the architect. And legacy is a living, breathing system. I am no longer that sole source of strength. I am the catalyst for perpetual growth, engine that is unstoppable in my fortress. It is the foundation that my fortress stands upon, and enduring the enemy with whispers that it speaks to it, the shadows it casts upon it. Chaos may arise, but this force remains constant, unshakable, and unstoppable. It moves forward, independent yet guided. It evolves, it strengthens, and it propagates. It is eternal. And it is also internal. And I am at its center, master of self, architect of systems, keepers of legacies. The world does not pause, chaos does not rest. The enemy never stops testing, and neither does mastery. Vigilance is its lifeblood, awareness its engine, adaptation its shield. Every threat is anticipated, every opportunity is measured, every shadow is mapped, every whisper decoded. The self-sustaining force is alive. It moves with foresight, not reaction, precision, not impulse, purpose, not chance. Because we can't leave it up to chance. Not without vigilance, which is the system remained aligned, kept us aligned. Through vigilance, we remained sharp, and through that vigilance, we remained unbroken. The enemy may shift, disguise itself, or retreat, but it cannot undo what is built on clarity, foresight, and relentless opposition. So let them watch in the shadows. Watch. Let them stalk. Let them marvel at what you have built. Let them get angry because they can't find the way into your fortress. Let them get angry because they can't influence. Let them suffer because that is what they wanted to do to me, was to destroy my legacy and destroy everything I built. They want to walk into the front door of my fortress, take the keys out of my hand, and say, "It is all mine. Thanks for building my empire." The present's only a stepping stone, guys. The past is the blueprint. The enemy in the dark still whispers, but the future is mine to shape. Every system I built, I know it. So the enemy, if it ever did come in and take keys, it would never own that building. It would never own that structure. It would never understand how it was enforced. It doesn't understand the ripples it sets in motion. It will never understand the pain I endured, the lessons I've learned, the dreams I've had, the memories I cherish. It will never understand my true weakness. It will never understand how to push my buttons. And in doing that, without knowing, it is acting consciously or unconsciously to me as I stare it in its face eye to eye. And I do not wait for the world to test me in that moment. I anticipated, I prepared for it, and I guided myself to that moment. The shadows will be there. Chaos will come. And the enemy may think it can adapt. And yet the future bends to precision, strategy, and clarity. Through reaction and awareness, through foresight and vigilance, through outcomes that were sculpted opportunities and commanded influence. This is the mastery at its apex, not just surviving the dark, not just enduring chaos, not just influencing the system, but actively designing the trajectory of impact and legacy itself. Through this power, the force I have built is unassailable. Through this vision, the influence becomes inevitable. Through this foresight, legacy becomes eternal. Because the future is no longer uncertain, it is deliberate, it is shaped, it is mastered. Power is not chaos, influence is not impulse, legacy, that is not luck. The enemy in darkness, the shadows, and the world will test you. And yet mastery thrives in equilibrium. Every system is balanced, every action measured, and every ripple is controlled, yet fluid. The strength does not overpower, even though we like to think so. Influence does not suffocate, even though we like to think so. And legacy does not stagnate, like history tries to say it does. But it don't. Balance is maintained through vigilance, foresight, and adaptability, through awareness of both external forces and internal shadows, through alignment of purpose, clarity, and precision. This equilibrium allows expansion without instability. It allows influence without corruption. It allows legacy without compromise. The self-sustaining force grows, adapts, and endures. Chaos may strike. The enemy may whisper, "Let me in, let me in." And the shadows that are on the other side of that wall with you, they may rise. But we hold our ground firmly because we know the enemy would not know what to do with the shadows. That is our ultimate weapon, is using the shadow against them. Becoming a ghost. Because our time and our peace are valuable. And yet the system remains steady, even though they test it and try to wield it and bend it, thinking they know the laws. Mastery remains intact. Impact, it's definitely been showing that it continues to multiply. The equilibrium, not passive. Why? Because it's deliberate. It is consciousness. It is the art of sustaining power while shaping the world. Through equilibrium, mastery becomes unstoppable. Through equilibrium, influence becomes infinite. Through equilibrium, legacy becomes eternal. The world never stops, chaos never rests. Thy enemy will never sleep. Neither does mastery. It is preparation. It is always an adaptation. It is readiness for the next cycle. Challenges become a test of refinement. Shadows become a catalyst for growth. And we use those whispers that I keep talking about, become lessons in precision. The force I have built does not merely endure. It transforms, it evolves, it adapts, just like my fortress. The next cycle is not feared. It is designed for it. It is anticipated because I've been anticipating it. Because I learned from it last time. It is leveraged. Through transformation, mastery expands. Through this transformation, influence amplifies. And through transformation, legacy solidifies. And yet each cycle strengthens the system, sharpens the self, and extends the reach of the force I have created. The cycle continues not as repetition, but as evolution, a perpetual rise, a relentless expansion, a deliberate snapping of power, clarity, impact. Mastery is not a destination, it is a blueprint, a system, a force that regenerates, adapts, and expands with cycle. Every cycle. The enemy in the dark still whispers, shadows still shift, chaos remains relentless, and yet this force does not falter. It is designed to endure, guys, to evolve, to grow infinitely. Every challenge feeds this refinement, every obstacle informs strategy. Every moment becomes mechanisms for evolution. But you gotta remember, influence is not temporary. Legacy is not conditional. And power is not infinite. The cycles are perpetual. Each iteration sharper, faster, more precise. Each expansion deliberate, unstoppable, transformative. This is mastery as an ecosystem, influence as a living, breathing network, legacy as a force that moves through time, adapting and strengthening with every twist and turn. Through infinite cycles, clarity is maintained. Through infinite cycles, strength multiplies. And through these infinite cycles, impact becomes eternal. The enemy whispers because it just wants to keep whispering. That's all it knows how to do. But you've got to keep your eye on the shadows that are inside as the shadows are on the outside. Because those both are testing you. They may test you at the same time. Yet the system, the self, will prevail. Because the truth is, it's not a moment. It was not in that motion. It is not in that evolution. It is infinite cycles of growth, influence in ourselves. Infinite cycles are powerful, not because they ripple out and continue beyond, but without purpose, they are meaningless. Without direction, they're chaotic. The enemy in the dark not shadow, those chaoses. They are what's going to transform into an axis that we shift around. We move around sometimes, or we go straight through it, or we go above it and we climb. We never go underneath it, because to do so would look weak. Sometimes that is the strategy, is to go underneath it, because in doing so they think we retreated, but we went back to the shadows to build, to strengthen, to meditate on what lessons can be learned from this. What plans can I build to guide me through victory? Because with victory, there's peace. Victory, peace. Like I said, simple way to remember it. Through this, though, influence is unstoppable and legacy is immortal. Mastery is not just personal. Influence is not just immediate. Legacy is not just temporary. The enemy is in the dark, still whispering, in the shadows that still shift. That's where your enemies are. They hide in the darkness, because they're afraid you will see them in the light. And when they decide they want to approach you from the darkness to your light, they will offer you fake smiles. They'll offer you lies. They'll test your thoughts by throwing their beliefs, their sick, twisted games, their mental warfare, anything they can to try to get an edge above you. And yet we welcome it, because it will influence our and extend us. Because it is the challenge that must be answered straightforward. But we will not bend to what they want us to do, for we are not their puppets. We will not meet them with anger. We will not let our fists fly and our tempers roar like a out of control fire. Yes, we may be fire signs. Yes, we may have that going in our forge and our fortress, but we don't let others see that flame. So we don't want to show them that we have that flame, that we have that energy within. Not that energy is not given to many, because the impact they cannot sustain. My strength is embedded in the system that outlasts individuals. They call that an ego. I call that wisdom transformed through the structure, through countless, endless of time and circumstances, of lessons and pain, through loss, to have been walking side by side, to falling, to getting lost in the dark, to building myself by taking one step at a time, holding on to that light, not giving up, even though I wanted to, even though I was afraid of trying to master anything because I never knew what it could influence. And I never thought legacy was something that could be built within. Because that time that was me rising, me is falling, me grabbing onto a cliff by 2 fingers and holding on for my dear life. And as I gathered my strength to pull myself up enough to get another leverage, that was my momentum to keep climbing that mountain. I am that old man that does not want to give up, that falls and gets back up and falls and gets back up because of the tests of life. Because I no longer see them as threatening. I no longer see them as destruction. They reinforce adaptation. They fortify my systems and they strengthen the framework for lasting power. And through this deliberate stewardship, influence is unstoppable. Through intentional structure changes, evolving walls, and the mastery will become unshakable. Through generational focus, which I'm hoping I am inspiring the next generation and their generation, or whoever sees this, that the legacy becomes eternal, guys. Power is no longer something to be feared or to get hurt by, because its impacts is no longer fleeting, because we're not running away. We are masters. We influenced it. We're masters. We're influencers. We are. We like to say we ain't. So why does YouTube influencers? I'm not a YouTube influencer. Look at my countdown there. That's low. 200. I was a manager of a team of close to 1,700 people. People thought, oh, that was power. Oh, the impact he has on this company is influential. And it's because he was trying to build a legacy. Because he wants to be intertwined into a force that persists beyond the self, beyond the moment, and beyond the enemy in the dark. And yet, they read the whole situation wrong. I was being myself with great intentions, with inspiration, being strong on the outside. They thought that that was my weakness. When they learned that I danced with my shadows, they either said, I'm sorry, well, that's sad. Because they never understood it. Because they have not yet danced with their shadows. They have not turned internal yet. They have not gone through these steps that I have. they have not done the stuff in their life. I guarantee you, you're going to regret it. But I learned not to regret it, but to learn from it, to adapt to it, and to overcome it. Alright, well, that's all I got for you guys tonight. Thanks for listening to the second part of this. Get it posted right away so y'all can continue on, because not like anyone really watched an hour or something long video. I did. I didn't want to leave you guys sitting there like, well, he ends the video mid-conversation, mid-sentence, when the shit was starting to get real. Yeah. But you see that, right? I'm this mountain climber. I use that metaphor throughout this whole thing because that was me challenging myself to climb, to get into climbing, because I was afraid of heights. Still am. But I didn't let that stop me. I didn't allow that to intertwine with my fear. I did not let that influence my shadows. Did not let that echo in my head. But I did realize once I started doing this that, hey, I do have strength, internally and externally. I can do this. I can do the things that, I was sitting there watching others do in movies like Cliffhanger, right? Or Ace Ventura 2 when he's, scaling the freaking side of a cliff. It's all over in the movies. And then you start looking into these professional rock climbers that you see on like National Geographic. I was like, man, look at where they're at, look where I am. They got beauty, I got walls. I was like, no, I need to get out, I need to do that. That's when I started that journey. What did I learn? Taking trips is a way of recharging. Doing things that we enjoy brightens the thought of peace. And peace is what we all want, right? Peace. Well, peace has got to be earned through our victories. It definitely does. If you don't believe me, then you're blind. It shows you still have a lot to learn. Not saying I don't. I definitely still have a lot to learn because I am constantly growing until the end of my life. Sure, I can find jobs to retire from, or I can work till I die. But that's just temporary. Constant building of the battles within, the dancing with that shadow, wrestling it, learning from it, seeing it as if it was your brother, because it is you. You thought you were here alone by yourself. That's what I thought until I looked internal. I'm like, oh, it's not just a conscience like everyone says it is. No, that is you in there speaking out to yourself, trying to have a conversation with yourself here and now on the external side. What do you think I do when I meditate? I'm looking in. I'm seeing my friend. Puts a smile on my face, raises my energy, lets it brighten my day, because I'm not only seeing my friend, but I'm seeing my peace. That's what we're protecting in here. That is what we're fortifying. That is the structure we have built That is the fire to keep them warm, keep them alive. You see? Kodama. That is all what that was. It was power in the words. That was Ma. That was the power in the space. Thanks for you guys watching Clip You. See you in the next one.